What's up, social media? So we're on episode 54, and we got Jonaed back with us, and we're talking about work. So as Rihanna puts it, work, 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 work. But I don't think she talks about the kind of work we're doing. But let's well before we
Someone
Sorry.
turned on the live.
hey no problem.
That's me.
So, so Jeremy is currently supposed to be working, correct?
Jeremy is currently working, man. He is working.
Yeah.
Lives are not, they're work.
Yeah.
Yep.
Depends on working for who. That's the question.
He's working for himself right now.
That's
so.
right. So I guess works doesn't matter if it's the East or the West, is a means for survival for every one of us. And today we go talk a little about the difference, in the East and the West. So, I think everyone knows all of us by now, and for anyone that's new, don't know us, Eldrick, Jeremy's the new retail guy. Eldrick's the consultant. July helps people with careers. And, So, whoever wants to go first, let's talk about work as a whole. Your thoughts about work, positive, negative. Go.
Well, I got a question. Now, I want to talk about Japan. So when it comes to the East, are more workplaces like Japan? Because I know Japan has or is Japan more of the anomaly, like more of an extreme end of the East? Because I know, like in Japan, it's just about head boss, and then his boss underneath can't leave before him, and the guy under, so the last guy just has to stay forever, basically, right? And then I know some people intentionally like create busy work to look like they're busy, and it depends, right? And if you fall asleep on the sidewalk, it's like good because it means you're tired and you're working, right? Do other countries come close to that at all? Right? I just know I've heard some extreme situations about Japan.
I think because of what the media has brought, things like overworked Japanese workers who just drop dead in the middle of work, in the middle of work day. I think that's why people have this image that the Japanese work culture is, like you said, right? The guy on the lowest part of the food chain can't leave until everyone on top leaves. Yeah, if you can, I think that's kind of extreme. I would like to think that in the East is more of dependent on the company culture.
Oh, I see.
That's how I see it, because I think Japan is more extreme, and I think that is evolved from the fact that in the Asian part, certain cultures, especially like in Japan and maybe even Korea, right? There's this huge respect for power and authority. Yeah.
I mean, over here they still have it. Here, it's just they show it in different ways.
The power respect thing.
I think it still has it because you kind of see over here. It's kind of some people have a very respect, like a business owner respect. Like they say, "Oh, boss makes all the rules, therefore rules are absolute." You see it, it's translated a little differently, but I've seen it. Right? It's like, oh, well, like I saw one comment where, they were talking about workplace flexibility, and they're like, oh, well, the boss makes the rules and you have to follow them, but it's not a question of why are the rules in place? Are the rules effective? Do they make sense? So some people say, oh, well, they said you have to be here at 9 o'clock. You came at 9:01. You deserve to be 5. So I think it translates a little differently. It's still a somewhat respect for authority, just in a different way, right? You see it all the time on LinkedIn. You'll see debates where some people are workplace flexibility. Some people are like, well, if they require you to wear a suit every day, you should be super thankful that you have a job and you're not homeless and blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
You see those attitudes, and other people...
There are.
You kind of see it. It's just a little different, but I do agree that it's... But, they have no respect for teachers over here. So, it goes like a different way. Like, they respect certain aspects of culture and certain not, but it translates differently.
And so there's always like the written rules and the non-written rules, right? Especially when you talk about work hours. So I think really it's dependent on the company and sometimes even like inter-departments, right? So whether there's that expectation or unsaid expectation that you have to be in or out at a certain time. Yeah, I give you a fantastic example. So I was in the advertising industry for a little while, a little bit over 8 months because it was just too crazy.
Yeah, it's a crazy industry.
It's a crazy industry, right? Back in the early 2000s. And so usually in advertising, we have flexible hours, but that means flexibility on both ends. You can turn up at 10, but you need to deliver the work no matter how late it is, right? So you understand how that goes. So one of the popular saying was that this was what happened. So usually we work, like say we turn up at 10 and we work like, all the way to like 8, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the evening, or sometimes even later, especially if there are pitches, right? So there was one time when at about 7-ish in the evening, so I was going out with some of the colleagues for dinner, right? And then as we were going out, I think some other colleague, more senior colleague came in. I think he or she just finished the pitch. I can't remember if it was he or she. Just finished the pitch and was just coming in to rush the work and get things done and all that. And as we were walking out, so the popular saying was like, "Oh, are you on half day today at 7 p.m.?"
Yeah, that's funny.
So that's kind of like the joke within the company, right? If you step out at 8, 9 o'clock, that's half day because you're supposed to work till like 10, 11-ish, that kind of thing. Yeah. So that's kind of like the unsaid rule, whether it's a joke or it's an expectation, formal or informal. Yeah, that's kind of like one example of dependent on the culture of the company, that even the department or even the industry, right? Because advertising is quite different.
Yeah, no, I've heard advertising crazy hours and stuff.
How crazy is crazy, in your opinion? How crazy is
Oh,
crazy?
yeah.
Let's talk about it.
I don't know. I kind of see like when they have plus, I think anything above 65 for a job ends up being like kind of demanding
65 hours a week
or more
or
for
more.
a job. I ends up, I think especially if you're not highly compensated, I think it ends up being like I think even for some entry level people in advertising, it's like I just know it's a churn and burn. Like I've never heard people say like good things like I love and the people who love it, you kind of see them and they're like, wow, they love work so much, like they don't like things outside of work, right? They define themselves by their work. So that's kind of what I would say crazy. I mean, some people may laugh at that, like ha ha ha, 65 hours. I don't do less than 90. So, but in general, I think for most that I would say 65 plus hours is crazy.
So
I don't-
So you don't endorse Jack Ma's 996, I presume.
No. I don't endorse it for everybody. I think it, for
Okay.
certain types of people, it works. But I think just like not everybody should need to do an Olympic level routine, right? It's just like, it's just some people subscribe to that. But again, it's like if someone's doing that, just compensate them really, really well.
But it comes to a point whereby the compensation doesn't matter because you just burn out.
Yeah. I mean,
You just
some
you
people
just
love
really
it.
burn out.
Yeah. Some people love it. To each their own. But I'm not I'll do it for my own company, right?
Yep.
But again,
think it
I would
changes
never.
if you're doing
Yeah.
it for yourself versus if you're working for someone.
Yeah,
right?
but also
So-
I would never expect that from my employees. Like for my employees, it's like I kind of expect like a 30 to 40 hour work week. Unless I pay them more, but I would let them know, hey, look, this is a little busy, this is gonna be a little hectic, but ideally my goal is to reduce their hours over time.
And then in the U.S., I can't speak for the East, but in the U.S., they also have, as a business owner, they have overtime, so you can't really push your employees to a certain point without it starts coming out of your pocket as well. But at the same time, there's no reason to push people.
Okay, so so this is kind of one of the differences that I observe, right? I think at least for me, through my whole career and life, I don't count the hours for the week. I don't. But I think it's more of a common thing to count the hours in the West, I guess, because of overtime. Of course, we also have overtime here, right? For maybe more junior level or entry level or part-time workers, they count the overtime, they count the hours. But when you get into I don't know, kind of like a role as an executive or something like that, entry level executive, we don't really count the hours. When you're no longer paid overtime and you work as required, even though that's like you work from 8:30 to 5:30 or 9 to 5, the kind of timing, we don't count the hours. but it's kind of like an awareness and consciousness to always have to count the hours in the West, right? Probably because of calculation of overtime and all that. So that's one key difference.
I think even without overtime, because I had salary and stuff, I think it's, look, if you're looking at two jobs and they pay the same amount, you know, you have to sort of evaluate them on other things, like how much hours you put in, future opportunities, and these other benefits. So it's not necessarily I'm thinking about, and also I would want to know, like, how long does someone take to do something? Can I make it better for them? Can this get more efficient? And I also think of turnover too, like, because the thing is, you see a lot of these industries, like you look at these top companies, pay amazing and all that, but why is it that they can only keep people for like 2.7 to like 3, whatever? I think a lot of them have turnovers of like 1 to 2 years. Name the top companies that people kill to get into, that people dream of getting into. And then why are they, so, you know, because the thing is, it's like, for me, it's like, look, I understand that someone's not going to work for my company past a certain amount because of many things. They may get married, they may move, a whole lot of things, or, you know, maybe I'm not satisfying something. But if someone wants to stay and they aren't staying, I would want to know, because I've come across people who are like, look, the pay's good, this is good, I'm leaving because of leadership, right? So it's like, or I'm leaving because, like, if I could work 5-10 hours less a week, right? That would be good, because hiring someone new is expensive. What is it, a year, a third of their salary if you count in recruiting, training, all that stuff. So I would just care about it from that perspective.
Yeah, the only reason why I brought this up is just that I feel that in the West there's this heightened sense of hours, because I've heard, like, you know, colleagues in the West say that, oh, I did this, I put in 2 hours a week for this, 3 hours in this particular project, and I was like, wow, that's so specific. I never count the hours. How can you be so specific down to the hour? So that's one observation on my part. Yeah.
I think in a way it's almost a trained behavior in the West, right?
Yeah.
So
trained
you start
behavior,
out,
right.
even as a kid, you know, how many hours you go to school until recess. And, you know, my son started doing this to me. You know, he's like, dude, I missed recess today. I went to pick him up early, and apparently I picked him up during recess. So that's a big father mistake. Apparently, I cut into his recess hour, and he told me that, hey, I ended up only getting 10-minute recess. And I go, dude, you got to leave school early. He goes, well, you should come during my class, not during recess. And I was like, I'm sorry. But I think, you know, that's huge in the West, I think. And then you start working your hourly wage job when you turn 16, McDonald's, right, whatever. And then, you know, you're calculating, looking at the watch, and then all of a sudden you get your big boy job. And then you're like, okay, how much time am I actually trading for this salary? And I think maybe in the West, in the East is a little different, right? So what's the typical day like for a professional job? Like America's 8 to 5 is the kind of cliche.
Default.
But what is it like in the East?
I think it's kind of like similar to that. Some companies start at 8, some 8:30, some 9. So yeah, so it depends.
We don't end at 5, right?
We don't. Normally we don't. I mean,
we have tremendous flexibility in our working hours, and don't get me wrong. I mean, like, we do have that kind of flexibility, but it's probably not the kind of flexibility that you would like. You can come into office anytime before 8 o'clock. You have absolute flexibility. You can leave office anytime after 7 p.m. You have absolute flexibility too. We are very flexible. It's just that this variance is not what you will appreciate.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to know exactly, like, you know, what is the time that is sort of like officially off hours, you could probably get an indication from HR policy whereby, you know, after 7:30 you could take a taxi back home. You know, that kind of a policy is sort of like a hint that beyond 7:30, it's like, you're putting too much work. We're going to give you a privilege, and then to get back, you can take a taxi home. Yeah, but of course there will be people who abuse that system, hang around till 7:30. Yes, I can claim a taxi back home because I live very far, and then, you know, do it every night, despite the fact that they are not productive or not doing anything. Right, surfing the web till 7:30, for example.
So Jeremy, what's like vacation packages like in Asia?
Sorry, was that compensation packages?
Compensate, like taking time off, being able to, like, does it come with vacation days? That kind of Paid time off is what in the U.S.
PTO.
So PTO. Yep.
Pay time. I think it's about standard. It's about I think 14 days.
Okay.
14 days. Yeah, it depends on different countries, right? I think China is closer to 10. Yeah,
Wow.
and I think so. I might be wrong. Well, public holidays is dependent on different countries. Singapore has, I think, slightly more number of public holidays than most other countries in Asia. I think, because when I was working in China, I was calculating the number of public holidays, and China has far lesser public holidays than Singapore. So I missed out like a couple of days, 3-4 days every year. I was there for 9 years, so yeah, I work extra 30 plus days over 9 years in China.
So would you say like so in the East, right? It's getting more and more casual. The workplace. What's it like in Asia when it comes to like your superiors or your bosses, your management?
Well, if you want to talk about, let's talk about dressing, right?
Yep.
It's not casual in certain places, right? In Japan, everyone's in suit and tie. Okay, maybe not tie now. They have relaxed it a little bit. No ties, yeah. But still, a blazer or jacket. Yeah, really, really, you need to dress the part. I think to a certain extent, Hong Kong is kind of like that. For China, it depends on where you are. There are places where when it's summer, you see people coming in T-shirts and Bermudas. There are. I think it's also dependent on the industry, right? So that's kind of like a huge difference that I observe. In Singapore, I think I don't know, Audrey, what do you think? I think it's more like anything goes. It still depends on where you work and which industry. If you're in finance or any of these kind of like what you call it, if you work in the central business district, then you are at least a shirt, business pants, right? Tie, probably not much. Go ahead.
When I was clocking 18, 19, 20-hour days, I didn't bother with what I was wearing, apart from the days where I had to do a client C-level presentation.
C-level presentation.
I don't really give a shit about it.
Aldrich, the Asian rebel.
No, as in, just get the. I'm here.
Get the job done.
Get my things done, and I'm obviously tired. I mean, like, but there's no point spreading the lamenting germs around because everyone else is also tired, right? I mean, like, you work in an aircon office, but the fact is that with 18, 19, 20 hours, everyone's emotions are a little off, like jumpy. People get jumpy, right? So just like you don't really want to bond over beer. You will just like just leave me alone for 15 minutes. I just want to catch that nap, and then I'll get ready for the next meeting. That's about it.
Yeah, but Audrey, you won't exactly go in t-shirt and jeans, right?
It depends. It depends on the office.
Oh, okay.
If it's a client office but it's a non-corporate HQ, let's say if it's some other office building, then I don't really care. I'll still go in jeans. I mean, like collared t-shirt and things like that. But if I know that I'm gonna stay there for long hours, I'll probably have another set in my bag.
Right. It will also depend on your nature of your job, right? So marketing, give you an excuse to dress well. If you're an engineer, probably you don't need to be in suit.
And back then when I was working, my first job was with Accenture. It was the big tech then, as compared to the FANGs and whatsoever. And we used to joke as analysts. So we are really at the bottom of the food chain. We call ourselves like whale shit. So whale below sea level and then whale shit. We used to joke that there are four time quadrants to a day, each of which is 6 hours. So the first 6 hours of the day before lunch is to check our work and our peers' work, so we do not get screwed because of somebody else's input into our work. And then the second quadrant is post lunchtime, and because we suffer from food coma, we pile in a lot of our meetings on afternoons. so we can just slip through. I mean, like obviously it's like
Oh man.
I mean, like, oh, this meeting is so boring. Then some of us will be like, okay,
Look,
I'm typing.
If I
And then-
ever was the
Yeah, go
CEO of
ahead.
a large company, because you've mentioned it, I would allow people to sleep during meetings, because let me tell you, there's nothing more that I wanted. There's nothing I wanted more than to be able to sleep in the middle of a boring meeting where you're like this. And if you could just sleep, I feel like that would have been the most restful sleep of all time. If you're able to
Yeah.
fall asleep for those
And-
5-10 minutes.
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
And that's where Google gets you. You know, they invented the sleep pods. You know, that way you.
No. It needs to be in the middle of that meeting, not after the meeting, not before
in
the
the
meeting.
middle of
It needs to be like you're tired. This person's giving you a boring presentation. If you could fall asleep for those 5 minutes, I guarantee you productivity shoot up 300%. I guarantee.
I've done that. I've done that before. Sleep in the meeting in front of my boss's boss, and I got caught.
I got caught once too. So yeah, I got caught once too. You know what happened? Go ahead.
No,
What
no,
happened?
the worst is so I was in a virtual conference meeting with this company, and they were they presented their new girl, and she's like at entry level, and she was falling asleep in like this, you know, Zoom call. And it was so obvious, and we're all like, there were like 30 people, and I was like, oh, poor girl. And they're like, and she goes, and she just like jumps up because they keep calling on her name, and they were introducing her to me. She was on the marketing team, and it was so obvious. I think it's even worse when you're on a virtual call, because the whole time we all saw her dozing off, but no one said anything, right? So we're all watching.
can't even
and
message
we're
like, "Hey, please wake up."
We knew her boss was gonna call on her, and you can just see from everyone's expression, we already knew.
That you're all worried for her, right?
Yeah, well, I don't work for them, so it was okay. For externally, for me, it was kind of humorous, and I was like, "Oh, poor girl." And they keep calling her name, and then she jumps up and she goes, "Oh yeah," and she just start talking. Yeah, the notes, blah blah blah. And then she goes,
KPIs.
She goes, "We just want you to introduce yourself."
Oh man.
And she was the person taking notes, and it was just I felt so bad for that girl.
So the note goes Z. So and so said Z.
Yeah. Now, falling asleep on a virtual call is probably even worse.
Oh, I've got a funny story on falling asleep. So back in the day before with all this virtual stuff, it was on like Skype, you know. So it's a
still
global
do that?
call.
People still use Skype.
Back in the day, I don't know,
I'm
like
saying,
3,
do
4.
people still use Skype? Like I haven't
Now
used Skype.
probably not. Now probably not. Yeah. So back in the day, right? So it was like a global call. I can't remember. What was the context? But there are people calling from different time zones and stuff. So I remember it was like evening my time, and so somebody was talking, and somebody didn't mute, and that's not the worst, right? Somebody was falling asleep and snoring.
Oh man.
So imagine. The best part was this. The best part was can you guys please mute yourself? I was laughing at myself because if that guy has fallen asleep and snoring, how could he be awake to mute himself?
Yeah, no. I mean, they're trying to save him, but you know, sometimes you just
And you don't know who unless you scroll down and see who's not on mute. And I think back then you can't unmute the person on behalf or something like that. So I was just laughing the whole time because we were trying to go through the snoring, and anytime that somebody said, "Can you please go on mute?" Who hasn't gone on mute, please go on mute. Obviously referring to the guy who has fallen asleep, but he's not gonna wake up and mute himself.
No, you know, so I fell asleep. We had an all day. It was like one of those like 2 days all day presentation, 8 hours, whatever, or one all day 8 hour presentation, something like that, right? And,
so many
I got
of those.
to sleep, and I don't drink coffee. So I'm trying my best. I'm like fighting it, and I'm sitting next to my boss, and you know, you're just like, you know, just like this, and eventually he kicks me, like I'm not, you know, he's like, and then I was waiting, and then I think I drank coffee after that, and I was good. But yeah, it's just I don't know. I just think it should be allowed. Just
No,
'cause
let's
get the
talk
5
about
minutes.
that for a minute.
Yeah.
So, like with professional jobs, right? You know, pre-COVID, meetings are always super popular. Everyone's always
Yeah.
I remember when I was in my corporate job, I don't even know why we had so many meetings.
Yeah, the
Like,
meeting,
honestly,
to plan the meeting, to plan the future
yeah,
meeting,
we
to
have
plan
so
the...
many strategies, but I never see execution. Right? We
Execution.
never do anything. We just talk about it, and like my boss always call meetings. We like hour, 2 hour, 4 hour, and we have lunch come in, and every day like I drag one to my job because it's like
Yeah.
oh, another day of useless meetings.
Meetings.
You know, and we don't ever accomplish anything. We just talk about it, and by the end of the year.
You can just take it like the live stream. Yeah, but
But it's different though. The live stream, I want to be on here, but with the job, like I was like, oh man. So, love to hear from you guys. Is it kind of the same in Asia, or what's it like?
No, I get back to your original question on whether it's casual, right? I mean, people
Yep.
to people.
Yep.
I think it's more we're more in tune to the yeah. It also depends on the company because I think big American MNCs, for example, it's more casual. But I think if you have like those sole proprietor, some bosses, small medium enterprises, somebody who owns the company, yeah, it could be more of a less casual because, right, that guy calls the shot, right? So I think it all depends also on the company. But I do think that, I've always been working at MNC. It's always more casual because, we have all this leadership style thing, training on how to be a better manager, those kinds of things. You're more sensitive. And every year you have all this feedback system, but for small, medium enterprises, maybe they're not that established. So it's more really that respect for power is like higher, if the boss comes and yell at you, you just quiver in your shoes. If, your colleague next to you just got yelled at, that kind of thing. So I do believe those kind of things do go on. Just that we don't hear about it. And yeah, I think it's kind of the same everywhere, right? It's dependent on, MNCs will always be MNCs. So, of course, there are small, medium enterprises that are run like MNCs, that are very friendly, like family, close-knit, especially all these startups, right? Because that's one like big selling point. So, yeah, I guess it's across the board. You see different variations of that.
That's good to know.
Yeah, and so that was like your original question, right, Kevin?
Mm-hmm.
And your last question was, I forgot.
Just in East versus West, kind of, what are meetings like? Is there a lot of meetings and?
Yeah,
I think they hit them all over the world.
I think they're all over the world.
Like based on what I hear from you guys, I don't know. I think like
I'm the one that organizes meetings. So imagine that, right? But so when it's like a huge like strategy kickoff meetings, yeah, of course the best part is team building, right? So I miss that now in meetings. I don't get to do that. Even if I try doing virtual team building meetings, oh man, disaster. People, switch off the cameras and you don't see them come back and what's going on. So from a control standpoint, yeah, team building on virtual meetings is not good. But pro tip, if you're in a position to organize meetings and they are really, really not so interesting, or if you're going to these meetings and you always will fall asleep, here's the tip: volunteer to be the event photographer.
I heard that one's fun.
Yeah, when you're trying to fall asleep, you just take a camera and walk around and take pictures, and then go back again, and then go and take pictures when you're trying to fall asleep. So that's my secret, right? So it feels like I'm always very engaged.
I like that.
So just bring a camera.
Yes, buy a good one, right? So people think, oh yeah, it's probably a good photographer. Yeah, he has this huge DSLR camera. Yeah, just let him do it. Yeah, and then you almost can't fall asleep, and you can walk around.
My favorite was one of my staff members. They were at a conference and they were videotaping. It was an educational thing, and he fell asleep.
That's nice.
Well, did it get recorded? That's all that matters.
Yeah.
So every footage has him snoring, right?
Yep. Oh man. So since COVID, right? How has work kind of changed in the in the West? I know a lot of us went to virtual. I think a lot of us are rethinking how work should look like. Like even personally, I don't know if I ever want to go back to an office setting. I'm enjoying my work from home, working remote, business up top if I need to, and wear my shorts on the bottom. It's kind of nice, relaxing. But what's that look like in the East?
I think there's kind of a struggle because in the East we with all this whole respect for power and all that there are traditional ways that we think of work, right? You commute, you go to a cubicle, you sit down, you work, and then you go back and you do whatever you need to do at home if you need to, overtime, whatever, take calls, etc. So there's this traditional mindset of framework that you attribute to work, and that's been totally smashed, broken by COVID. I think in the West, the work from home thing is more accepted, but it's like totally new to most of us in Asia. Like mind blown, right? Wow, I don't have to go to the office anymore. How's that going to work, right? And the challenge now is with vaccinations and relaxation, things coming back up. There are reports, surveys and things saying that 80% of the workforce would prefer to work from home, or 90% would like to. It's always the majority that would want to either work from home or still enjoy a hybrid system of working from home and working in an office. And it's kind of like becoming a challenge for companies to entice or get people back in the physical space office. It's a challenge because on one hand, due to different country policies on social distancing and due to different company policies, you can't exactly force everyone to be back, right? Oh, it's mandatory. Oh, but there's still COVID around there. I don't want to mingle with people. Human rights, blah blah blah, my health, etc. On one hand, you can't force people, but on the other hand, the companies are paying for the space, right? The rental still goes on. You still have a desk, right? In my company in particular, so during this whole pandemic thing, they have restructured the office, so it's like more open spaces, more meeting rooms, hot desking. The workplace itself is built such that you cannot have 100% of the workforce going back because of social distancing measures and all that. So it becomes like half and half. There will be people who would never want to go back to the office for whatever reason. They're really maybe 100% worried about the pandemic. There are people who really worry about that, and there are those like me. Yeah, would like to go back to the office, but when I'm back to the office, hey, where's everybody else? I enjoy that. I enjoy that presence. Company with colleagues. We go out for lunch during lunchtime, but I'm in the office. Where's everybody else?
So are they pretty flexible in letting you guys choose to go back if you're comfortable or not? Or
okay, I think
you don't get to choose the number of days. You can choose which day for the department. Like you can choose Tuesday and Friday, or Monday and Thursday, so long as your department is there. But the number of days is non-negotiable.
Yeah, there are some companies who say that you need to come back at least 2 days out of 5, right? For example, there are. But
I mean, that's still better than 5 out of 5.
That is, man.
5 out of 5 at home, work from home.
Yeah.
So for my company, I think we determine that by the nature of work. So if you are someone like somebody who does installations, you're an engineer, you go down to the building to do all this fixing of this building automation system, whatever. So those people, they may not have to come back to work specific, not desk bound, because they're out anyway, right? So those work still carry on. And then there are those who like half and half. You have to be in office sometimes. You don't come back because you only need to print out stuff 3 times a week, for example. So the rest of the 2 days, we can work from home. And then there's the other extreme whereby you totally do not need to come back to the office except when there are meetings. So you don't get a desk. All you do is you will be hot desking. And as and when required, you can be back to do meetings. But as soon as you're done, free to go. So for me personally, I opt to have a physical desk. To be honest, the nature of my work, I honestly do not have to appear here in the office, because I report in the US and a lot of these things is virtual, and I work late into the night sometimes. So I don't have to, but I prefer to have a physical desk because at least I feel that there's some physical form of me in the office. You know, I'm still an employee here. If I go back to the office, I have the fixed desk I can go back to. I'm old. I need that sense of belonging, and I want to avoid having to go into the system to book a hot desk every time I want to go in. I just cut the hassle. I ask for a desk, so I share with my team member. We rotate to go back. So at least my team member who is based in Singapore with me has a desk as well, you know, for that sense of belonging kind of thing. Because I think it's kind of hard for me to adjust if I have to do hot desking. A different spot every time I go back. I probably wouldn't even go back, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah. So
you know, I think this is a very appropriate time to share my setup. Because you're talking about like the
please
office
do.
setup. So look, let me tell you, so this is my setup.
Interesting to know.
Hold up. So this is how I work.
Whoa!
Right, so I have my LinkedIn there.
Are you like a day trader? Because you're like full screens.
No,
My gosh.
And then so this is my PC. So you see
that's nice.
Whoa!
Powerhouse right there.
Yeah.
That's a gaming rig, man.
I know.
Yeah. No, I mean.
You need to be careful just in case you get attacked by the green activists, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like consuming so much power at home.
No, but look, I do things like 5 times as fast, so I use less power.
That's one way to say that.
That's one way. But yeah, no, I mean, I think home office setups and the hybrid thing, I definitely think that's the future. And I think one thing that like COVID has really changed is the perspective, because a lot of times it was the owner mentality that you own your employees. Oh, you come to the office because I want you there. I want to see you. I want to see you doing work. But the fact is, a lot of these people, their productivity has gone up. You know, so now look, a lot of times people make decisions. Oh, I believe it. And they'll just say things. Oh, people need to come into the office, and they'll just make up things because they believe it's a logical argument, but it's not a factual argument. You know, things can sound right, but they may not be right. So a lot of times they're like, oh, you need to come to the employee because collaborate, and then they see people just collaborating just fine. You know, maybe you lose some aspect, right? I'm not saying some things will be different, but you kind of see that people are producing things are going all right. Now it challenges those things. Now people can't say like, oh, if people work from home, they're gonna do this. It's like, no, they're going to be able to produce the same level of work for a lot of jobs, and it gives that flexibility. So I think it challenges like the old system, right? Because that's what it is. You're seeing a lot of challenges of the old system, and I think more and more, I think these challenges are really accelerating just how people perceive things. For example, startups are really challenging the traditional corporate structure. You have people who are 21 who are extremely brilliant, who are running companies better than people who are 42. Now, that's not to say there aren't some extremely talented 40-year-olds, but it's kind of challenging, age, right? Age was a traditional way of looking at experience. Now, the thing is, there's some people in 5 years, they have so much more experience than someone who's been there 15 years at one company. And it's really challenging the things of, oh, you may not need a college degree, because startup people, they don't care. They're like, look, you produce the results, you're in. So I think you're getting, in the last few years, right, with the startups outpacing and outperforming a lot of traditional companies, and then the COVID just challenging the traditional work structure, I think going forward it's really going to just change how things are done. And I think it's good, because the fact is now people have more flexibility. And the thing is, even if you can spend 1 day a week working from home, 2 days a week, right? What happened was people worked the whatever, Monday to Friday, whatever, and Saturday is errands, and maybe they might get a few days. Now it's like you could actually run an errand or two during the week, right? You could do something like get things done. I remember even scheduling doctor's appointments when you're working Monday to Friday, and it's just like 1 hour. Now it's like, hey, look, I'm working from home because I got a doctor's appointment, and now it's like, I think it just opens up so much more opportunity. And then the fact is, it's like even sleeping an extra hour, now you don't have to, get your regular work clothes ready. You don't have to, you can, during your morning meeting, maybe you can make something to eat. And I just think it just makes things so much better. The fact is, maybe you can actually drop your kid off to school instead of paying for a bus. I think that it just offers so much benefit. Flexibility. I'm a big fan of flexibility.
And nowadays you can just turn off your camera during conference meetings too, and you can
and multitask.
Yeah,
you can take your naps and just mute your mic. And if you're strategic and go, oh, sorry, I didn't know my camera was off.
Yeah, no, I mean it's good, because it's like, I think it benefits women a lot because, you know, you don't have to do your hair and makeup. You know, guys, like, you just wake up, you know, whatever, we're good. But, you know, for a woman, it's like doing the hair, the makeup. And I think, look, that's like an hour, whatever, X amount of time that they don't have to spend on makeup. It makes a difference, right? It's just all these things. I think the fact that you can return a lot of time to your workers, that's worth more than necessarily a salary increase, right? That you only have X amount of time in a week. Because this is another thing, one analogy I really liked. A lot of people underestimate how much, no, they overestimate how much time they have. Because there are 168 hours in a week, right? Let's say you work 8 hours a day. Let's say 10 hours a day you dedicate towards work, right? So you lose out on 70 hours of work. 70 hours in the week. So what is that? Now you're left with 98 hours. Now let's say you sleep, 5 hours. So that's 35 hours. Now you lose 98 minus 35. So now you're at what, 63, right? You have 63 hours left. Then you have other stuff. So realistically, you only have maybe 50 free hours a week, right? And for most people, you have kids, you have these other responsibilities. You may only have 30 to 40 free hours a week, right? And if you think about it, maybe that's 4 to 5 free. Now, so let's say, you know, you have 5 free hours a day, that's 35 hours a week. If I give you back 1 hour extra, you have 20% more time, because the free hours is what life is all about, the free hours you have. So you actually, that 1 hour, you're giving them 20% more free time. And that's a lot when you only have 5 hours, right? If you have 20 hours, right? If you have 80 hours of free time, it may not be much, but when you only have like 3-4 hours of free time a day, you give someone 30 minutes an hour, it makes a big difference, 10 to 20%. That's what a lot of people don't really think about.
So my commute is about one and a half hours one way.
Oh man, that sucks.
So that's 3 hours.
I had an hour and a half commute in high school, and I'll never do that again. It was like prison.
Yeah, and Singapore is small, right? So 1.5, so it's like quite far, public transport and all that stuff. So I want to make a point about, I actually lost my trail of thought, but I was going to talk about something about working time. I lost my trail of thoughts. Sorry, go ahead. I'll pick it back up.
But when you talk about commute, you know, it's true. Like, you lose. Like, for me, I lost 2 hours. If there was traffic, it could be 2 hours and 30 minutes every day. Yeah. Right? And I'm in my car, you know, and I can't be that productive besides listening to podcasts or whatever.
You know, podcasts have changed the game, though.
Yep.
Like, I didn't have podcasts when if I had podcasts, I'd be super genius if I had podcasts in high school.
But that's huge time savings, man. Like, I was like, nowadays you can technically, if you have, let's say you work 8 to 5, you honestly could stop at 5 and actually, you know, go straight and enjoy your time off, right?
No, and you know, the thing is, like, let's say you have an hour commute. If you spend an hour more sleeping, and if you sleep 5 hours to 6 hours, that has like so much tremendous benefits. Or let's say you are getting enough sleep, an hour more of exercise that you do that you normally would never get. Right there, those just have so many more benefits, and the benefits go back to your work too, right? Yep. You're more engaged at work. You don't hate your coworkers as much. You're actually more attentive during the meetings. You know, it does have a benefit.
That's a stretch.
That's a stretch.
Look. Maybe less drama.
Less drama. Look, you know what? You know what?
Drama.
You're less likely to be. You know, like you said, when people are working a lot, they're a little
less irritable.
You know, you get less jumpy because you're like, it's whatever. But you do get like the benefit and just more just either exercise benefits creativity or sleep benefits creativity, right? Just so you always comes back some way.
Yeah, I remember what I was going to say on what Jonaed said earlier about challenge, right? I think the real challenge is challenging people manager and their mindsets and their trust in their team members. I think that's the huge challenge because during the lockdown periods and all this work from home, you know, in Singapore, there are like horror stories when you hear where people who are supposed to be working from home, but they are expected to be in front of the screen, you know, capturing their presence on video that is sort of like streamed to their boss to show that they are at their seat in front of the computer as though you're working next to your boss. So this is the problem with trust, right? If your boss don't trust you and expects you to be in front of the screen anytime, at any time, let's say do a spot check. Hey, please turn on the camera. I want to see you at your desk. That kind of a thing. You're just trying to hold on. You're just trying to hold on what was going to be lost trying to hold on to the old thinking of you need to sit in front of me to be working, that's a challenge for people who can't let go and don't trust their staff.
Yeah, you know what it
That's
actually
the real
shows?
challenge.
It actually shows in most managers have an inability to manage, and they also have an inability to quantify and qualify the work that people under them do. Because if you can appropriately judge the so most people try to judge the inputs. Oh, how much time are you at work? How much time are you in front of the office? That's the input. But because they got to judge the output, they have to say, hey, I need you to produce, whether it's sales is easy. Hey, you have the number, that's easy. But for other things, it's harder. So you have to say, hey, look, this is the level of work. And then say, look, here's the output I need from you. You figure out how to do it and let me make sure I'll help you do it. Now, if they're not producing the output, then you can say, hey, you know what? Is it because you're not spending enough time? But most people say they believe, then they're only incentivized to produce inputs. Okay, I'll be in front of my office I'll be in front of my desk 8 hours a day, but they're not incentivized for the output. So you got to focus on the output. Don't worry about the rest. Help them make the output.
You are precisely right. But remember our earlier discussion about hours, how many hours you are paid to work. Yeah. So I think you are precisely right. We're always judging on the inputs, but that's precisely because that's how our contracts are worked in, right? For example, you are paid this compensation, you're expected to work from 8:30 to 5. So that in itself, is getting our minds into the framework of, I get paid this much. The company is buying my time, X number of hours a month, and then I get this amount. So then people will approach it two ways, right? I clock the hours and I leave. Or I want to show that I'm very hardworking. I stick around my desk till 8 o'clock every night, but I actually don't deliver anything. And the way to change that is when we start all this, performance evaluation. Oh, these are your KPIs. As long as you meet this, it's fine. So then now I go back to the question. So if we are only judging on outputs, does that mean that I don't turn up for work or work 1 hour a day, for example? I meet the KPIs no matter what, and don't touch me.
Yeah, I think so too.
Right, you know what I mean?
If you have a sales guy and your target is 100K, and if
he meets it half of the year,
if it takes someone 50 hours a week, and this guy can do it in an hour, he deserves that same amount of money. And you should tell him, look, help us we'll pay you more to help us make other people as productive as you.
Yeah, so sales is the part. Sales jobs are the ones that will really be output driven. Right, because if somebody hits his quota half a year in, I think he or she can not show up for the rest of the year. What are you going to do to him or her?
And no one cares, right? Because
I made my numbers. You can't touch me. Yeah. Now it's up to me if I want to make more money for you and for myself in terms of commission.
Yeah, I think you know what you need to. I think what job should be is like, hey, this is sort of the expectations, right? And you have like a period of expectation, and you should say, hey, we expect like 30 to 40 hours out of you, right? Or whatever hour, a range. You have to give a range, because it's like, if you focus too much on we expect 32 hours out of you, then it's like you lock yourself into 32 hours and they focus more on the time. I think over time, then you figure out, okay, this is what a reasonable expectations is, and then you kind of say, look, if you want to maintain this, you want the same pay, but you want to work less hours and you can maintain this, good for you. Or if you want more pay, here's more output. And give some flexibility. Some people will opt for more time. Some people will opt for more hours. And I think that way you let people do what they want to do while giving them ownership and giving them flexibility, because different people want different things. Some people would love to work 5 hours a week. And then, because I've seen it all the time, you have people who are interns or people who are entry level. They automate whole departments. And then they're like, oh, I want a raise or I want something. They're like, nah, we don't have budget. But you had the budget to do it inefficiently for 10 years. And if I didn't come, it would have been the same way, right? I've seen it all the time where they were like, hey, I was reading about an intern. He was like, yeah, I automated the whole thing and all intake. And they let go of 3 guys. And then they're just like, oh, I don't have budget. It's like, of course you do, And then what ends up happening is, if you don't have like a culture that thinks, right? Because it's not no formula. It's not something contract. It has to be like evaluated. You just end up losing good people, because good people say like, screw this, I'm gonna start my own company, or I'm gonna go somewhere else, or I'm gonna double my salary. Because if you don't give them what they want or what they need or what they can get, they're gonna get it somewhere else. And usually you're just paying another company's training costs.
Yeah. No, and that's a good segue into I would like to discuss this too. So when we talk about East versus West, in the West, it's very easy it's very popular to just start your own company or, hey, start freelancing or. What's it like in the East? Like, what's the culture like? Is there more people going, hey, I quit, I'm not enjoying my job, so I'm just going to start my startup? Love to hear, from Eldrick or Jeremy.
Maybe I'll let Aldrich speak to this.
If I start, you probably wouldn't have the airtime. You can talk about it.
No, it's okay. Go ahead. I want to hear from you because I'm not an entrepreneur type, right? So it's gonna be more convincing coming from you.
I think not exactly, because I've also gone through what you are going through now, and chances are you never. I never know if I have to go back, but. So let's start with the average, right? The average Asian, they typically have one job that they revolve their life around. So
do they get A pluses? The average Asian get A pluses?
What do you mean by that?
No, I'm just joking.
For sticking to a job, right? For sticking to a job.
No, just A plus. I just know the typical Asian.
It's just average Asian grades in Asia. The grades are not phenomenal because everyone
because it's so hard.
Competes for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think if we talk about college, there are policies in college where the total number of A's per module per semester cannot exceed 25%. So that's A pluses plus A plus. We cannot exceed 25%. And I had the front row seat because I was a teaching assistant. So we had to squeeze. We had to squeeze it. But anyway, that's that. The average Asian has one job that they revolve their life around. And because the job is so all-encompassing in terms of time and commitment and things like that, usually after work, it's all about family. So you can imagine the day, right? And then there will be those that are slightly more industrious. They will have a side gig outside of their day job. So if you're not married and things like that, then typically at, let's say, 8 p.m. to 12 midnight, you will have a little something on the side. And when I say a little something on the side, it's not startup. It's freelancing. So freelancing or projects, right? Because recently, the NFT thing has taken off in a way.
I got some NFTs.
Yeah, so same as.
All right.
I'm the same. And then there will be the younger ones that will try this on the side, right? Even if they have to work in office, you will know that they have an additional tab that does their own thing. So that's the common one. So you have a day job and then a day job plus freelancing and projects. And then there's the very few who will have a day job and the business that they want to start up. And then,
that was me.
Yeah, it's the same for me. And then, no, it wasn't me at the very beginning. I belong to a day job and then investing in the morning and trading in the evening. So trading in the evening in Singapore is the US markets. Investing in the morning is the Hong Kong and whatever that's going on. And then I'll just be staring at my phone. So morning meetings, I'll be like, okay.
What's the market like today?
Yeah, what stupid analyst is saying these stupid things. So that's the common thing. It is very rare to say, tell a boss, up yours. I'm gonna start my own business. It's very rare. But I know that's pretty common. I'm quite reticent by saying this, but I think in the US that's pretty common. Like, up yours. I'm gonna do my own thing. Don't tell me what to do.
I wouldn't say pretty common, just more common than Asia.
That's why I say I'm pretty reticent when I was saying.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you why, because you get no health insurance. So people want to. People want to. But what ends up happening is if you get a good job, typically it's in a high cost of living area, So, it's these other factors, so that kind of makes it, or you end up getting used to a lifestyle that, hey, look, you're making 200-300K. It's very hard for most people now all of a sudden live on 30K, right? It's just people develop lifestyle, all those factors. Yeah, and again, the comment is, yeah,
Douglas comment.
Yeah, I think results are the only thing that matters.
Yeah,
I don't think results are the only thing that matters. It's always a cost and benefit analysis.
No, that's true. I guess
any company. Yeah. So you are just a digit. You are just X amount cost per month to a company.
What? I
right?
think instead of a company viewing employees as a cost, they should look at more as an investment, right? Just like. Like when
so
you
that's
invest
the ideal. No, that's the ideal, right? But when business comes to a crunch, put it this way, right? When business are not doing well, guess what? Do you think they look at your performance record before they decide who to let go? They look at cost first. Who's most expensive they can let go? That's my point of view. I could be wrong, but I wanted to touch on.
You're right.
No, you're right.
I want to. I think this is the part I want to touch on whether people are more going into entrepreneurship and all that. I think the pandemic has sort of warmed up the idea for a lot of people that, what Audric just mentioned, you holding on to your job for the rest of your life is not going to work, right?
Yeah.
Because if something like the pandemic hits, you are at the company's mercy to be let go or not. Yeah. And the choice doesn't come to you because it's not because you are a bad worker and you are on priorities to be let go. I think that is just BS.
But
it never works that way.
I'm not a fan of more people being entrepreneurs, and I'll tell you why. Because most people really don't understand what entrepreneurship is. They see, this guy takes a vacation, this guy has this flexibility, this guy does this, but they don't understand, like, look, when I was working, like, free time, I'm reading books, I'm doing this, like, in my hobbies relate to learning more and all that stuff. Like, I'm not binge watching Netflix, I'm not doing this, I minimize my video game time, and not because I want to, it's just because, look, I have really no choice if I want to succeed as an entrepreneur, and most people don't have it in them.
And it takes a specific brain.
Yeah.
Not everyone's born entrepreneurs, and I think, especially in the West, we have this misconception, right? Everyone's touting this entrepreneurship is almost like, they put them on pedestal, like nowadays it's like professional athletes, right? You have this false sense of, well, you eat crap a lot as an entrepreneur, you eat crap for years before you see anything,
and some people are not 6'7" LeBron James, some people are just 4'2" and they want to be in the NBA, like they don't realize that. And the thing is, entrepreneurs can come in all shapes and sizes, but the fact is that, look, there's some people you go into, they're like super sharp, they have certain things that are good, they can talk all day. Like, for example, I'm not an introvert or an extrovert, right? So
You're
but
confused.
the thing is, no, I'll tell you. So an introvert
between the two.
No. But I'll explain for the people in the audience. So an introvert gains energy by spending time by themselves, right? Thinking, being alone. That's how they recharge. An extrovert recharges by going to social gatherings or being like the center of the party, right?
Your definition is correct.
So I don't need either, right? I don't recharge. I don't necessarily need to be alone, or I don't need to be. So, but the thing is, I can do both. So I have like a best of both worlds, and some of it's just due to genetics, right? Like it's not like you can change it, you can expand it, but there's only so much you can do to change it. So it's like that's an advantage I have as an entrepreneur for doing what I do. I can do these types of things, right? Whereas like some people are just not suited for a certain type of work, or they're not. Some people want stability, and the thing is, as an entrepreneur, stability is one of the last things you get. And depending on your state of your life, it may not make sense. So I think people need to be more realistic about whether or not it's right for them, and realistic about the amount of effort it takes and the time.
I blame the media for that, because ever so often you read in the headlines that so and so sold a startup for X million of dollars. Then the headline is never so and so had bread and water for 10 years before he sold his startup for X million.
Or the actual headline,
hard work.
Or the actual headline, this guy got divorced because his startup didn't make any money for 3 years and his life savings ran out, right? Like they don't
precisely.
Unfortunately,
so
like you have
so
these
we
headlines.
have this. So we have this misconception that, wow, I can make millions by doing a startup, but you go to that end point, but they never see the entire journey of that X number of years that they don't pay themselves and they work their life off. Or people who have lost everything, right? There are more people who have lost everything trying to do a startup than those who have made it. So I blame the media for that.
And I think social media also, plays that part. You have these people like with a laptop, work on a beach in Thailand and make lots of money doing this, and it's like, dude, I got 4 monitors. I'm gonna tell you, I don't trust people who only work on 1 monitor on a beach. I just don't. It's just like, what are you doing? Like,
I'm with you.
I don't trust, because look, let me tell you, and they use a Mac, and the Mac keyboard shortcuts are nowhere near as Windows shortcuts. So then I don't even trust you anymore.
you.
Are you alt tabbing? Are you doing this? Are you using a trackpad? You're not even using a mouse. Like, I just don't trust them. It's just like, you're just, whatever.
I still don't get how people can use trackpad as a mouse. I just don't get it.
No, I know how you can use a trackpad, right? I've used it. But if I'm doing like work, and I want to be as productive as possible, like, you're gonna need a mouse. You're gonna need things. You're, at least more than 1 monitor. 2, at least minimum 2, right? Maybe on the go you can do something, but it's like, look, working with at least more than 1 just makes such a big difference in just a lot of things.
I don't even like working on my laptop.
No, I don't.
I have a gaming desktop, and I don't even game.
Yeah, I have a gaming desktop, and I barely game. It's just like the games are just for show. They're just icons on my desktop.
Yep, that's how I am as well, man. So,
I think just to circle back on on what we're talking about, as well as Douglas's comments that was appearing. The cost of entrepreneurship can be atrocious. I agree with that, and with that comes many ways in which we start like thinking how we can get the most out of it, given the amount of time that we have. And I want to address this to people who are thinking about it, like possibly have a day job, but they want to have something to really look forward to. There are 2 things. So one. You have to start treating your calendar as a friend. You have to start treating your calendar as a friend, and you need to design the day that you want. I'll repeat again. You have to design the day that you want and schedule it. So some of my blogger friends, they do that. They have day job, and then after the day job, they schedule in 2 hours of writing. But sometimes it's very tiring.
Dude,
sometimes it's very tiring after work, right? Yeah, you're bankrupt of ideas. And they are too tired to type. They've been typing the whole day, memos, emails, white papers, PowerPoint, Word document. So what they do is they find ways to use audio to text tools. So like, I think there's a tool called Google Type or something like that.
Some of them are built in.
Yeah. So what they do is that they talk. So they switch on the app and they talk. And the app will record everything that they say, translate it into text, and all they have to do the next day before work is to edit, to turn speech to proper sentences. Yeah. So if you want it, if you're willing to commit to what you want to pursue, you will find ways to do it. Just stop daydreaming about it and stop complaining. If you want,
I'll say, look, my process was learning as much about business and myself as possible and honing my skills so that living at home, like I tell people, look, if you can, live cheaply. And that's one of the reasons, like, I still live at home, and I was only able to take this risk because I didn't have to worry about this. I didn't have to worry about like the traditional bills. And this is a lot of things that I see a lot of kids when they're young. It's like, hey, you want to go out and live. It's like, save that money because, you don't know. Like, the thing about entrepreneurship is you're going to have to weather a storm. So you're going to have to make sure you build a good foundation. And if you don't build that good foundation, when that storm hits, you're just going to get wiped out.
And I think we saw a lot of this during the pandemic.
Yeah. No, you gotta build that and stuff.
And I think it's so true, man. You guys, you hit it on the head. Is entrepreneurship, like, you have to be ready, and it's okay. Be patient. You know, if it means working 10 years for someone else, 20.
Yeah, do it.
I mean, I went from entrepreneurship back to a corporate gig to an unprofessional gig, and then back to entrepreneurship. So, like, to be honest, it's like, you know, you have to eat shit every once in a while. And
Yeah.
that's just the truth.
No, and Douglas brings up the great point where it's like mentors and partners. Like, mentor will save you years of learning, man. It'll save you years of learning and so much money.
Yep.
Mentors,
And it's true, like, you know, if you find the right, and there are good bosses out there, right?
Yeah,
if you
there
find
are.
the right people to work for, you can learn a lot, you know, and ask questions, you know, learn and surround yourself with the right people too, not just mentorship. Who you hang out with.
Yeah.
I know birds of feather, you know, what parents always say. It does matter who you surround yourself with impacts yourself.
Yeah.
You know.
You know, what's one interesting statistic about entrepreneurship? I don't know if it's U.S. or worldwide, but the average age of entrepreneur is actually in their 40s and 50s. There's this misconception that it's a younger person in that, but there are two things that are very important in entrepreneurship: experience and capital. And generally, why is this age? Is because you have a lot of experience in this age. You also tend to have a lot of capital because a lot of people, by the time they turn that age, their kids are above 18, and they at a point where they built up a salary, they have an X amount of experience, and they don't have to take care of young kids, right? So just realize that I think it's easier to do it later when your kids are maybe older or before you have kids. So make sure to try to take advantage. If you're young, take advantage before that time. Do as much as you can.
Or have kids early so that when you turn 40, they are like, you know, in their teens and you don't have to worry that much.
You could do that too.
So I did the opposite. So I waited to have kids. So I'm the 40-year-old with the 6-year-old.
I'm like you.
I'm an entrepreneur. So,
you know what? My dad had me at what is he, like 65? So he had me at like around the same time.
yep. So yeah.
I wanted to, go ahead.
Go ahead,
Kevin.
Jeremy.
No, I wanted to circle back to something just popped in my head. I want to circle back to when Jonaed just started the talk this evening about Japan and work hours, right? I suddenly remembered something. There was actually a Japanese drama series, and the title goes something like "I want to knock off on time." So, Japanese series are like 10, 11 episodes. So the running theme for this episode, for this drama series, is really about this working lady, and her goal is to knock off work on time every day. And obviously that doesn't happen in Japan, and then you get into all this different situation whereby she can't knock off and then go to her eatery and have a beer at the end of the day at 6 o'clock. My point is this: it is a cultural thing, so much so that they are willing to make a drama series out of it. So it's very prevalent, I guess. And I think the reason why this was, was quite popular. I think it might even be based off a Japanese comics, a manga. So it is definitely an issue. But I think the fact that they make it into a drama series highlights that, and maybe it's also to try to change, maybe in a subtle manner, that cultural belief that you need to stick around unnecessarily until your boss leaves. Yeah. So I think it's changing, hopefully. Yeah. But it's definitely a cultural phenomenon there.
No, I think they'll just be forced change. Startups are just changing the way they're still making money. And the fact is, if your competition is their workers are working less and producing more, you're just going to lose out. It's ways that you can get more out of your employees or whatever. I mean, it's an interesting thing. I saw a statistic, like the average U.S. employee is only productive for like 3 hours. They're like texting for an hour, reading news sites, doing this and that. And you know what? This was always done. Let me tell you, people think it was done now. Before social media, back in the day, they were reading magazines. Look, they were reading magazines and newspapers. So people try to act like it's today. It's always been a problem.
Yep. Going to the bathroom.
Yeah.
No,
so what has
that's
changed?
The funny thing, everyone blames it on social media and internet, but there was always something.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's TV, radio. There was always something. It's just human nature. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts, guys, on the future of employment? Do you see it more I know in the U.S. they talk about things are going to be more like contractor type relationship, maybe less employees.
I think they're trying, but healthcare is just the biggest issue. So, as much as a lot of people want to be contractors, unless they have their spouse get the benefits, that just ends up the big concern for a lot of people.
Two things I see. One is really more of a joke, but let me try and get to the so-called important one now. In terms of employment, I think there are articles going around saying that employment no longer has to be geographically fixed. What they're trying to say is, I can get a job from the US because it's remote work, right? So you don't need to be in the US to take a director of marketing for US, whatever,
Yep.
And in the similar vein, people who are not so skilled, for example, they're going to get challenged in terms of the work being offered to, someone in more developing countries type for a lower wage. So this has leveled the playing field. There's no more playing field because it's all virtual, right? So that's one on employment impact. The other one, I see it more as a joke because remember the times when we're back in the good old days, how certain companies are baiting employees to join their companies with free lunches, free massages, buffet lunch every day, sleeping pods. We talked about that, right? Pool tables.
Yep.
All that's gone, right? At least for now, it's gone. It's no longer an advantage, right? So that in that sense, those benefits are gone. So yeah. And anyway, for those who didn't look into it, all these benefits are honestly designed to keep you in the company, to work longer hours, right? Right. So yeah. So that no longer has an advantage. And the other thing I like to laugh at is when if you looked at job posts these days, there are still job posts that say that require 50% of your time to travel. I'm like, nobody's going anywhere. Why do you put that travel requirement? Required to travel 50% of the time in the region. How? Please don't put that. At least till the pandemic's over. That's my view on employment. Yeah.
No, and I think work at the end of the day is a means to survive, right? So, and I think we all do it, because we have to survive, and there's no right way to do it. There's no right way to get to point A to point B. It's really like what makes you happy, right? What if you aren't happy with something, then you need to figure out something else, And at the end of the day, we need to learn to suck up, If you can't pay your bills, I always tell people losers can't be choosers. If you can't pay your rent and mortgage, get a job, do something.
Nothing
Don't
wrong
complain.
with that.
And if you're an entrepreneur and you can't sell and you can't make money, go back
Don't
to
be.
getting a job.
Yeah.
It's
and
really
run
that simple.
run the venture on the side.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's okay, because I hear that a lot, I'll have friends that come to me and go, man, Kevin, I can't do this. I'm struggling right now. And I'm like, maybe you should look at maybe going back to workforce, because that's the first thing I would do. If I start struggling, man, I'll be applying. Like, I'll be hitting up Jonaed. Hey, hook me up on the resume.
Yo, anybody, look, I'll hook you up on the resume. I got someone to interview at Spotify this week, so, I'll get it done.
Awesome.
Dude, and I'm like, I'm not ashamed, man. It's like, that's just life.
No, there's no shame, man. And Kevin, you are the best position to advise people to either switch from entrepreneurship back to corporate life or corporate life to entrepreneurship, because you've done that back and forth.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'll tell you, entrepreneurs have trouble writing their resumes, but the best resumes I write are for entrepreneurs because they have so much experience that they can actually tailor their resumes for different roles, and they have a lot of flexibility, and you can actually get some great roles. So, and trust me, I've seen entrepreneurs move from just a lot of different positions. They just have to know how to write a resume. That's really it. Once they know how to write a resume, it's pretty it. But can I give I'm hosting a networking event next week. All of you guys are invited. Everyone in the crowd is invited. So come by. It's 6:30 p.m. EST to 8:30. So it'll be the morning time for you guys.
6:30
p.m. But we'll keep it open. So we'll keep the it's a networking tool that conferencing tool, so you'll be able to network with people on LinkedIn. So feel free. I dropped the link in the comments or message me, and I'll give you the link. Would love to see each and every one of you there, and
That
we'll have
is
some
cool.
panels and all that stuff.
No, this is
Awesome.
good stuff. So, yeah. So I appreciate everyone, and hey, it's 9:17 p.m. tonight, and then in Asia as well as probably going into Germany's work
10.
hours. So,
Yeah.
so thank you for all of you for sticking around, and we thank StreamYard for sponsoring the show and making it happen. Next week, episode 55, the guys go take a break. It's gonna be the BUP females, so
Nice.
the girls on our end, they'll be
No,
hosting.
I'm
the
not taking a
Bottoms Up
break.
Live. So,
I'm going to be joining live and commenting. So yeah, I'm not
yep,
taking
I'll
a break.
be commenting. So hope you can all join us, and I really appreciate Jonaed for
Yeah, Jonaed.
just being with us, for 2 weeks in a row, man. So
Yeah, you're
appreciate
awesome, man.
What's the best way for everyone to follow you?
Me, LinkedIn. Honestly, like LinkedIn, check it out. Just send me a personalized request. I mean, even if you don't, I'll still accept you unless you have like 2 connections, because then I think like, why are you connecting with me? I have a live show. I've been kind of erratic
Send
with
him
it.
your best sales pitch.
Yeah, send me a sales pitch. Look, I respect a good sales pitch. If it's customized, I'll be like, okay, cool. You know what? Maybe we'll get a call. If not, be like, look,
They're
I
very
still
hard to
respect
come
you.
by these days. These
Yeah.
days are like
Look, as long as it's
robust
personalized, it doesn't
categories.
matter. Look, it doesn't matter if I don't need the product. If it's personalized and they thought of me, that's it. If it's clear, even if they personalize one word, like I'll be okay. And then check out the No Degree podcast, where I interview people without college degrees, have them share their stories. I got a lot of interesting people, and we do talk about work in that podcast.
Awesome. Hey, thank you all. Have a good evening. Have a good rest of your day. Those of you in the East. So,
Gotta get back to work.
Yeah.